Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 4 of Fed Up. Joining me today is Zack Miranowic, if I pronounced that correctly.
Oh, you were so close. Miranowic.
It's a work in progress then.
That's
Hopefully I'll
okay.
get better. I'm actually learning 3 languages and I'm not a good advertisement for linguists there.
Hey, you're two more than me.
Yeah, it's a start, I guess. So how is everything today? Are you having a good day so far?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I actually just got back from vacation yesterday and I got a little burnt up, but otherwise I'm good.
Oh, where did you go?
We went to Point Pleasant, New Jersey. I'm
Yeah.
actually from Jersey, but yeah, so we're only like an hour away. It was basically like a staycation just for like two
Yeah.
or 3 days. But honestly, that's like perfect for me. I don't like to go real far.
Yeah. Yeah, so then you're not too far from home base, but you can get that nice, quiet, relaxing time as well. Just get that bit of a break and time just to take it easy from everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no doubt. The first thing I want to open up with, Zach, I noticed when I was looking at the cover for the single, seems like yesterday, and it's going to tie in with one of my questions. It's got, you obviously the skeleton sat there in a chair. There's the grandfather clock in the background, and I thought it was interesting because the cover scene it reflects what I was reading in the press release about the passage of time, and you see the light shining through as if this is a person that sat there and has been looking back on his life, contemplating. Could I have done this better? What could I have learned different? So I'm just curious, how how did you come up with the idea for the cover and the artists you worked with? Did that take quite a long time to come up with that vision?
Um, I usually come up like I'm pretty quick with my ideas. Like usually when I write lyrics, it's like I have a visual in my head already, and
Yeah,
it's just trying to. When I commission an artist, it's always cool to try and be as concise as possible. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. Yeah, it's just you could spend your whole life contemplating how I could have done things differently in my life, or things could have went this way or that way, and it's like you know you almost remember when you make certain decisions that like shape your whole life, and it feels like literally seems like yesterday. So
yeah,
um
yeah. It does, and that's interesting to hear, Zach, because it's open to many other interpretations as well. For example, say if we've lost a loved one, a family member, a relationship that maybe didn't work out, and there's moments that can pop in your head where it does seem like yesterday. It doesn't seem like all that time ago, and you can think, "Man, did I do this correctly here? What could I learn from that? How can I be better?" It's like that quest to always grow and become a better person within ourselves as well.
exactly, yeah. And it's like when you do lose that loved one, or that
Yeah,
part of your life that you cherished a lot passes on, you just have to keep going, and you can't waste your life dwelling on it. You have to. It's almost like the dystopian outlook of it, the skull guy
yeah,
in the chair.
yeah.
It's like you could choose to live, or you could choose to be the guy in the chair.
Yeah, well, that's what captivated me as well. I mean, this is my nerdy side thinking, but when I
Yeah.
saw it, I thought of like the Wild West, those horror versions of the Wild West as well, or that I've forgotten what they call it, but you can get that actual genre of kind of rock where it's like call it I think it's psycho, but like an offshoot of psychobilly, I think, where it's like got all
Okay.
these horror vibes with the Wild West. And I thought this was perfect. It really did fire me up as if nobody could tell the way I'm talking. Like, but it did, and that comes through in the single because although it's a very beautiful piece of music. It's
Thank you.
obviously a clean vocal track. You're very welcome, and there's a nice melody and arrangement there. It still has that um, kind of haunting dark mood in a way. And as I've said, it reminds me sometimes of those Western movies you can watch where they have that soundtrack that goes along with a scene that's about to happen. You know that scene's going to be something very pivotal, and
Yeah.
good, and that really got me. And I thought, this is saying so much, not just in the lyrics, which I think, you know, we all can relate to, but those subtle injections of other music. Is that something that you always intended to do with this single?
Yeah, every song I write always to me has a very, it's like making a movie,
Yeah,
like a 5 minute movie.
yeah,
So each one tells a story, and I'm very visual, and because I did the video myself. I'm not
well,
like a filmmaker by any means, but I
yeah,
try. And
yeah,
yeah, I think it's always cool. Like you see something visually that strikes out to you, and like if it sounds good too, that's like a bonus. It's
yeah.
like, wow, this thing's the whole package. So yeah, I always like darker tones. And with this song particularly, I wanted to do something very stripped down, something that usually I got like layers and layers of guitars and percussion and bass and vocals, and this time I kind of just made it as if it was like a live performance.
Very much so. That comes across in the video. You literally sat in your backyard, I'm guessing, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I thought that was really nice because there's something, like I said, it's very beautiful about it, but it's got this haunting passage to it as well. Definitely the real world uh, basis there that we can all relate to in the lyrics. Like, you know, the days have come and gone. All seems like yesterday. Seasons passes by. How did you live your life?
yeah,
It's such a powerful opening, and from what you were saying, where you're very visual. I'm the same with my imagination. I see everything in my head like a movie, even humor and comedy. Which if I think of a joke or someone, I see it happening in my head, and it's
yeah,
like playing out. And then I can sometimes just start laughing, and people will be, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?" And I'm like, actually seeing it happen in my head. And it's the
yeah,
same with music. When I listen, it doesn't matter what genre of music it is. When I listen, then I see the images in my mind, what I'm thinking of, who I think that person is within the lyrics, the story, what it's about, the
yeah.
mood. So it was very interesting to hear.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, you know, when did you first get the idea for the single? And I know we've said it can relate to so many things, the passage of time, both personal and, you know, and other things as well. Was there something that happened that sparked this in you where I thought I want to create this particular piece of music?
Um, oh, I think I started writing it back in April. I want to say it was like April,
Mm,
and it just came to me really quick. I was, my there was some things happening. Like somebody I knew passed away, and it it changed a lot of like perspectives for me. And just just how much everything has changed. Like I think about like where I was a year ago even, and I'm like, wow, like everything is so different now. Like I've lost people, I've lost pets, but I've
yeah,
gained new people and new friends and stuff. And it's just amazing how far things come in such a short amount of time, but it feels literally like a lifetime ago,
yeah.
like where I was living home, and it wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things and stuff like that. So
Yeah, definitely. It's also like moving forward, trying to be positive, not
yeah,
forgetting those that we've lost, remembering the fun times with them, the lessons that family members have taught us as well.
yeah,
It's a song that particularly hit home with me because I lost my dad to COVID, and then friends after that as well. And I've kind of been stuck in this rut for, well, I think I've mentioned it in the emails when we've gone back and forth. And
yeah,
then it's strange, something just, well, I had a real bad episode recently, and I just thought I can't allow whatever, this to control me anymore. And when people
yeah,
say about facing their own demons, or these demons that they're talking about,
yeah,
now I'm going through that, I really can relate and see what people are meaning. And I thought, I've got to do something to move more into the light to get past this. And so I I resurrected this dormant YouTube channel and thought, let's open it to all music, even if it's music I don't like. It doesn't matter. I'm still happy to talk to people. I'm interested in how they create, you know, film, wrestling, martial arts, horror, anything. Anyone's welcome. And it's been amazing, Zach. The range of people that want to come on here so far, and I'm like, hey, it's in its infancy. You know, there's hardly anyone subscribed at the moment. I've done much, but people seem to like the idea that it's open for anything and everything.
Yeah, it's cool the people that you meet and how many, like, learning what draws people to what their passions are, or maybe some people find those passions later on in life, and that to me is even more amazing when it's been dormant for so long, and then you find out, like, how did you get there, and just talking to all the different people, and you may even learn something new. So I'm glad I could be part of, like, your, like, talk shows genesis, you know what I mean? That's cool.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, it really is. I'm like this with all guests. If somebody even, I don't know, ran their own you know, plant factory making cards or something, hey, I talk to them. I still get the same as excited because all of this is so interesting. And I know this is taken from, you know, your forthcoming solo EP that's due out later this year, called Cryin Out. So is the EP, I'm wondering, with, you know, we've been talking about self-reflection, moving forward, etc. Is the EP going to feature lots of, I guess, different themes that revolve around life, different moods, different journeys we go on?
Yeah, I would say I put out another single before this one that's also on this EP, which is, again, totally different than something I've done before, even in my bands. And it's even really different from this single that I just put out. But I would say a lot of it has to do with choices and, like, the light and the dark, the death and life, and positive and negative, and the many different forks in the road that you can take. The first one was a matter of life and death, and it's an instrumental. But in my mind, it's there's like a video. It's like the comet is like coming to strike the earth, and it's like, was it fate? Was it always just supposed to happen, or was it something that a choice people made that made that happen? You know, like environmentally, or you know, how did you live your life before all that? Was it a good experience? Was it bad? And you've got people like praying, and then you got people just kind of doing what they do. Another song on the EP is called Live Again, which again is going through certain things in your life that are sometimes they feel like forever when you go through them. But once you push past them, you can finally see the silver lining that, okay, I've learned this and I'm not going to do that again. And how to better deal with the negativity that comes with those things, those life events.
Yeah, and then it's passing on those lessons to others around us as well, perhaps, you know, friends, family, or even, you know, strangers we may come across, because sometimes it's easier talking to a stranger and it can be, well, hey, I've gone through this and this is what I did. This may help you. So it's, and that positive has that knock-on effect. It's spreading that good energy, because it's so easy to be trapped in the downward spiral, thinking there's no way out, trying things to get yourself out of that, and then you fall back in a rut again, and it's incredibly frustrating and disheartening. But you've just got to keep going, and you eventually will start to come out of it. I'm very curious to hear it when it comes out, just for all this reason, especially from a personal perspective. I think a lot of people will like it for those reasons. So, did you always? This may be so early to be able to even answer, but I'm gonna ask you. Do you plan to do any more solo releases in similar vein, or maybe do something completely different as a solo release?
Oh yeah. So my first album was like kind of heavy. So now this is like the little like the grace period, kind of like
Yeah,
I guess you could say it's almost like Alice in Chains where they do like an EP between an album and it was like acoustic.
yeah.
That's almost like what I see with this. And then my next one is going to be heavy, more
Mm.
songs, but I think lyrically and thematically it'll fit together like in the big picture of like what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I would love to do more acoustic stuff and more just more even bluesy stuff. I love blues and I love heavy metal. I love singer songwriter acoustic stuff. So uh,
Yeah, well, blues is very much the foundation for metal. Without blues, if you wouldn't have it, you get, you know, man, when I hear stoner rock bands as well, I don't know
yeah,
why sometimes they don't just call it heavy blues rock, because that's what just it sounds like. I thought you can hear the blues in this.
yeah,
Desert rock, that's pretty cool. You know, bands like Fu Manchu, you know, all of those kind of bands. I mean, God, they come out of I think it was Caius, wasn't it? And
oh yeah, I
well,
love
yeah.
Caius.
And I'm like, man, it grabs me because you can just hear the blues in that music, which gives it that bit of soul, that bit of oomph. And I
Yeah,
mean, I say to people, there's even, and it's such a good independent and underground blues scene. I say it's not just in metal and punk and rock. There's so
yeah.
much out there. I can even hear that coming through the single. And that's what got me. I was reading, I thought, man, this sounds awesome. There's all these different formats here.
Oh, cool. I'm glad it comes through because you never know what people like when you put something out. You never know what people are gonna pick up or what they're gonna resonate with. So I'm glad. I'm glad you picked that out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, pretty much was raised on, you know, metal, blues, and I mean, I love my
Yeah.
punk and hardcore as well. Look, everything, it's everything and anything. Most genres of metal and punk and rock I like, even from the extreme to whatever. It's all falls under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny you mention Alice in Chains. I mean, we could chat about this a little bit later, but when I was listening to Sekond Skyn, I can really hear that Alice in Chains vibe in them. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh man, I like this. Alice in Chains, absolutely fantastic band. Um, so do you feel then, as an artist, when you are, you know, performing your acoustic music, does that give you that nice balance and break from doing the heavier side and allowing you to express yourself a little bit of a different way?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of like it's almost as a musician, especially one that likes to do a lot of different things and projects. It's almost like having a split personality. It's like who are we gonna talk to today? You know,
Yeah,
is it Second Skin? Is it like that hard rock guy? Is it the acoustic
yeah,
guy? Who's coming through today? So, and that's the thing. Even with writing, it's like sometimes I start something and I'm like, I feel like just like getting really into it and like writing something hard and heavy. And sometimes I want to lay it back and just I'm kind of down or I'm tired, and so it feels good to have all these different avenues for expressing like what I can do on the
yeah.
guitar and vocals and
Yeah, well, music is as a whole is very much a mood thing. You know, you like you said, you've got the moments when you just want to headbang, get that out there, or perhaps just chill, or listen to something completely different. I must keep it fresh and interesting. That versatility for you as an artist.
yeah.
Um, so, do you have any particular routines that you go through for writing your lyrics? I know we talked about the real life kind of aspects there.
Yeah.
But do you tend to like go say full swing until you've got that song wrote, or write a little bit and then come back to it?
Um, some things come to me. I'd say I have a lot of unfinished stuff
Yeah.
that that's like that's cool, but I'll come back to it because I got nothing. but but then songs they come out and they just come out and like you just have to ride the wave sometimes,
Yeah.
and like you hear a melody and it comes out good. I record sometimes I have this thing that I think sounds great and I go to record it, I'm like, oh, that was ass. But you never know though until you actually put it down on a recording how it's gonna come out. And yeah, I would say I think my best lyrics come out when I'm feeling some stuff. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
life gets in the way, the lyrics definitely come through better. But the music, I feel like usually when I'm in a really good mood, you know what I mean? So it's weird. It's
Yeah.
like when I'm not a guitar player, I'm a singer. When I'm a singer, I'm not a guitar player, you know?
Yeah, I've always thought it must be for any kind of writing, lyrics, or even if it's writers who write novels, etc. It must be frustrating at times when I have like that block where I just can't seem to get anything out, or whatever I'm playing I don't like. And then you've got the opposite end when this must be in one sense this is good but frustrating if you really need the sleep, if it's like 4 a.m. and you get this idea and you're sat there and you're thinking, no, I'll wait. And I'm like, no, I need to get up. I need to write this down or it'll go.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Sometimes once in a great while, something will come to me when I'm sleeping, which
Yeah,
is always really cool. But if I remember it, it's like if I don't get it down, like if I don't just say it into my phone real quick, I can't. It's gone.
yeah,
You never know. It hits you when it hits you. I remember I was learning like music theory and guitar, and I was in like 11th grade science class, and I'm supposed to be paying attention to science, but I'm thinking about music and like why is this the first and why is that the fifth, like, you know, just like nerdy music stuff. And I'm like, shit, that makes total sense. It hits you whenever
yeah,
it does.
yeah. It's something we've been talking about with the guests just on the first few episodes on the show about the creative process, exactly what you've said. And I said to one of the guests, I think I remember reading something by Stephen King at one time, and he was talking all about how he gets his ideas, and he said even though there's some moments where he thinks whatever he is writing is garbage, but you've just got to soldier through and just keep going and keep writing it, or
Yeah.
you've got pretty much nothing. And that's something that said. I mean, he's regarded as the world's finest writer. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So when do you? I know. Well, I guess we can kind of relate this to your bands as well. When you've got a riff, riff down, you think, okay, this is cool. Do you all get together, bounce back and forth with those ideas, and what do you think of this? You could get there thinking, oh, this sounds good, and one of the other guys might be not quite feeling that. Can you do this
Yeah.
again and change it?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with being in a band. Everybody feels one way or another.
Yeah,
But I feel like more times than not, they'll go with whoever's got like the core idea. They'll go with that and build off of that. Whereas when I'm by myself, I'm like here in solitary. I got no one to bounce any ideas off of. It's all me, which is kind of nice because sometimes it's nice to not have that extra opinion, but sometimes it's awesome to have, I like working with everybody, in my bands. But again, sometimes it's like which personality am I going to get? Am I going to get the
yeah,
readers today, or am I going to get the extra today?
yeah,
So yeah, it's every band I've been in all has their process, and it's not like one size fits all. And it's really interesting because I want to say I've been in seven. I've been playing like 15 years, so I'm gonna say I've been in like
nice.
7 bands. So everybody's totally different, and it's really weird, but kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's kind of learning to compromise, agreeing to disagree when necessary. It's a question I always ask musicians and bands who've been around a long time. I always say, how do you maintain that longevity? Because we're all human. We are going to argue sometimes. We're going to disagree. But I think it's trying to take a step back, listen to the other person's perspective, compromise when necessary, or otherwise, I'd imagine the band would just go.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
implode. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
usually like in a setting. I'm like, if I really, really don't like something, I will say it. But if
yeah,
not, I'll like you said with Stephen King, I'll just drudge along and hope for the best. And if it is really bad, again, I'll say something. But usually, it's like it always comes out good. You just refine
yeah,
it until it's what you want, or like 99% of what you want. You know, there's always going to be that little bit, like you said, compromise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's going back, tweaking it, isn't it? That's the kind of what I apply to my martial arts training, I guess. Think, oh well, I suck today, but maybe that 1% a little better next time. So yeah. Also, when I noticed you maintain a very active social media presence, something I am slowly working up to. So how, does it, the discipline to do that? Because I know you do a lot of guitar playthroughs on YouTube, TikTok, something I'm reluctant to go on at the moment.
yeah,
I don't think I would look cool dancing around to songs and stuff. I'm like, no, man, I don't want to share that with the world.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I'm not a dancer by any means.
Yeah. I'm like, and then there's only so many times they can watch me just go in, and I thought, that's gonna get boring real fast. So what I'm drawing from that, though, Zach, is you very much like to maintain and keep that relationship with your fans, develop new ones, for people that haven't come across you before. So is that something that has always been important to you, both as a person and an artist, maintaining those positive relationships with people?
Yeah, I would say even before I was doing the social media, even after like shows we'd play, it's always good to hang out and meet with the people that stuck around to see you, and have a drink with them and hang out and get to know them as best you can, because sometimes it's really loud in the venue. So but just be cool and personable, and people will come back. And I actually started doing the social media thing probably about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes I got nothing, but you just record a riff, or even I'll just record an idea and play it and to my track that I made. And uh, sometimes it's not even for entertainment. It's just so I don't forget it, but people might find it entertaining. So I guess you could say I'm like a lazy content creator in a way. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. Whatever, you got to do what you're feeling, and you can't just like I see a lot of internet guitarists, and it's cool, and a lot of them are way better than me.
Right.
But you just got to do what you like. I feel like sometimes you could almost tell some people go through like the motions, like they got to do "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses, got to do "Man" by Metallica. It's like everybody and their mother has done that already. It's like you got to try and find something no one's done, or like I try to push my original stuff more than the covers at this point. But
yeah, well, that's refreshing to hear, because I know exactly what you're saying there as well. Because, for example, if we talk about Metallica and Guns N' Roses with people, and you can often sometimes get accused of being elitist if someone mentions, "Sweet Child of Mine," "Paradise City," "Enter Sandman," "Master of Puppets," etc. And we're like, look, it's not saying they're bad songs, but we all know those songs so well. They've got other material. Has anybody listened to, any of the other songs? And it's like sometimes on the radio stations you'll hear like as we said, "Sweet Child of Mine" played for the 159th millionth time.
Yeah.
And then people, as I said, they can be, "Oh, you've been elitist, guys." I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying they've got other songs. I do listen to more than that one song by them. So that's interesting to hear. What I'm coming back to again, the blending of sounds that I could hear in the single. Blues, which we can certainly get into discussing. Southern rock, I can hear that Southern Gothic coming through there. So is this going to be, are these influences going to be on the other songs on the EP? I know it's an obvious question.
Yeah, so I would say this song that came out is more alike with the next two that I'm going to be putting out, as opposed to that very first one I put out, Matter of Life and Death. That one was almost like an oddball, where I didn't know where to put it, but I figured thematically it kind of works. And it's like when you listen to a Rush album, they got like the big overture song, and then they got like the short ones after it, which I always thought was kind of cool. And I love like progressive rock. Like I've been on a Yes kick. Like, I listened to like all 23 albums the other day.
Whoa.
I'm just like,
wow, that's discipline for sure.
Yeah, well, so I mean, I love like Opeth. Like, you know, they got the one big one, and then but they're not afraid to like try something else and be weird, almost like with their discography. Like they just throw you a curveball one day, and it's like, well, that's pretty cool. Like sometimes with these older bands, you almost wish that they would throw you a curveball. Once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. Add on this extra layer. I've seen Opeth only once, and I was very fortunate. I saw them in a city called Leeds, not that far from here, and I always remember it because it was underneath the bridge that goes into the train station, and it was like on a kind of on a dockside ish, I think. And it was dark. It was literally like you were in a medieval castle, even though it wasn't one, that same darkness and vibe. It went with the atmosphere so well because, you know, they changed from the clean to the harsh vocals, the same with the guitars, and how the audio bounced around as well. It was one of the most fantastic gigs I've ever been to for that reason. It's something I always remember, and I just thought, man. And when I've tried to introduce people to Opeth before me, obviously, you know, very well known now, and some people can get put off with the harsher vocals. And I always say, just listen carefully, listen to the music, and see them live. Trust me, you'll get it.
You won't forget that experience, definitely.
Yeah.
And the Michael Ackerfeld is like an amazing, like he's one of those can do it all kind of guys. Like he can sing the harsh, he can sing the clean, he can play awesome riffs, and he can play a pretty sick lead. He's got that almost like David Gilmour kind of lead. He's not like shreddy, but he's got that really nice PRS tone, almost like Santana and Dave Gilmour if they had like a love child.
Very true.
So his whole band and his vision and that and what's cool with Opeth is, again, they're like like progressive rock, where you listen to them in the 90s, they're a lot darker and more death metal. Listen to them in the 2000s, they're more hybrid. But now you listen to them, they're almost like progressive rock. Like they're not even almost like not metal anymore.
Yeah, and yet when you see them live, they bring in everything. On one of their albums, I think it was possibly one of the mid-2000s album. I think, no, I'm thinking of My Dying Bride. I was thinking Bane of the Hounds. That song was about a town called Whitby, where Dracula's covenant, you know, had washed up, which they're making a Hollywood movie about the ship Voyage of the Demeter, actually.
I saw that. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, me too, man. I was hoping it was out this week as well, and I looked and I'm like, it's Gran Turismo. And I'm like, man, I thought I want to see it. I don't want to see that. but I got a bit confused there because I think it was the band My Dying Bride that did a song about Whitby and I think the Moor and all to do with that. And anyway, equally cool though, very atmospheric. So, you know, as we said, you draw those influences from all over. So is that something that you have always explored yourself as growing up? Not just trying to stay in one field of music, hearing everything and thinking, right, I can bring in this particular aspect from that scene into my sound. Did that just come naturally to you, or did it come from family at all? You know, how you were raised?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's funny. I go to like even as like a little kid, and now, my dad's family is a little older, so they're really into like funk and R&B, and they love classic rock, and but you know, we're listening to like Earth, Wind and Fire and stuff, and they always have like that. Like I would love to write like a funky metal song.
Yeah,
awesome, and I think it's cool when bands can incorporate stuff like that, or like country licks, like Mastodon, like that guy Brent Hines. He's like super country oriented guitar player if you really listen to the licks, And I think when you listen, I haven't heard too much of the solo stuff, but what I heard I liked, and it was like, wow, this is so different. And that's the thing, as a musician, you're always learning something new that you didn't know how to play before. So you're always like grabbing more. It's like a big puzzle. It's like you got like the basic idea, but you're filling in each piece to make the grand picture. And you always got to, like I said, you got to play what you like too. That's always important. So you got to take that and refine that and make your own style in a sense also.
Yeah, put your own personality in there. Yeah, because you can often see on TV shows, for example, and they'll have, and I'm not bashing pop or anyone, each to their own music, but you can see the backing guitarist sometimes, and you can see they look bored, like it's literally the job they're going through because there's no passion and soul. And look, I'm not bashing those guys. At the end of the day, it's work, and hope that gives them the stepping stone to whatever they want to do. But I think it's interesting because I'm not going to sit here and say, as a metal guy as well, I didn't go through my elitist phase where I'm thinking, right, only death metal is law and all of that stuff. But once you start, opening up to other scenes, talking to other people, you realize, man, there's so much music out there. And it's interesting you mentioned like funk with metal. There is, isn't it though, as a West Coast thrash band? Is it More Dread? I think. And they make like funk and thrash metal together, and it's quite interesting when it gets to, normally you hear like a thrash solo and a thrash song and it gets up. But they kind of do it where it's got that, but it's got kind of like funk overlaid on top of it. And it's interesting stuff. I don't know everything by them. I think they did drop a new album recently, and I thought, this is kind of an interesting take, because normally people kind of like look at the Chili Peppers for that kind of vibe.
Right. Yeah. I guess they've kind of like, they're almost like the poster band for that, like funky metal, or like harder funk. So yeah, I mean, it's cool because when like you said, when you start opening it up to other scenes, you learn different aspects, and you learn almost better how to relate to more people and make yourself more listenable also.
Yeah, and it's, as you said, you were saying it's music for how you were feeling. Sometimes you might be in the heavier mode, and it's the same with us. Look, okay, yes, of course I like all my heavy styles the same, but it doesn't mean we can't like other styles or softer styles. It all comes under the same umbrella. It's just a different particular expression of metal or rock. And hey, as long as you enjoy it, and we all do, that's what it's about. It's the love of the music.
Exactly.
So, man, one thing when I was listening to Seems Like Yesterday, and I'm going to put this to you, Zach. I'm not saying to do this because it's, I'm not your manager or anything, but have you ever wanted to do as well a solo release making like that Southern rock and Southern Gothic, where it's got that kind of haunting Wild West feels to it? Because man, boy, that would be something to hear.
Yeah, that would be, I would love to do that. Again, I love Southern rock, and I feel like there's like maybe a niche for that. Like, I don't know, like there's people who've done stuff like that, but who would be the next person to bring that to the next step and be like, again, like the poster band for that?
Yeah.
Poster artist. So that would be really cool. Hey, you never know. It could happen.
Watch the space, eh? Just putting ideas there across. Sneaky British.
You never know.
Yeah. But that's a testament to your music, man. I mean, this is no ego stroking, but as I say, it fired up my imagination, and I get like that with music and movies. As we were saying, we both got that visual aspect. I see it in my mind, and yeah, I noticed though, you definitely have that with your other music, your discography, the covers. There's one, for example, the cover of Fear, where it looks like there's a Grim Reaper looking at a lady. It's kind of got that theme where that balance, I guess, between light and dark, like that storytelling aspect with your music, and that certainly draws you in.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another thing. Like, I like to write about what interests me, but I almost like to keep it vague enough where you got the idea, but there you could put your own spin, like however it would apply to the listener. And again, there's always different ways to interpret music and lyrics, but I think sometimes some artists get very specific, oddly specific, and that's cool. But I like to keep it almost like somewhat of a mystery, but like in the ballpark. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was chatting to. Oh, sorry, Zach, I've cut you off there.
Oh no, you're good.
All right, sorry, man. Yeah, I was talking to a guy on the first episode back, called Rod Lutz. He's been into rock for decades, and he made their new album, I think, was very different to the previous releases, which were a bit more metal tinged. And he said he likes to do that with his music, where they like to get people thinking, like you said, open to interpretation, where they're not full on saying, right, this is what we think of, whatever, or that, but it's like just doing it in a subtle way. And I thought, well, that's interesting. It's giving the listener a good interactive experience, because I'm sure people will think very differently about your music to how I interpret it. So that is a good aspect to maintain. It really is.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like watching a movie that's open-ended at the end. Like, how do you think it ends?
Yeah.
And it's almost better when they don't make a sequel, because, like, again, you get to put your own, or like, you know, I guess when you read a book, like, it's better because you're painting your own picture, your own character in a way. Like, it's the character, but it's who you think it is, though.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever see an end to the Fast and Furious movie sequels then? Or do you think they're just going to go on forever?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Actually, I've only seen like maybe parts of the first one. I gotta watch all those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff out there I'd like to see.
Yeah, they start off the early and then mid kind of range that they're going, okay, now it's got even a bit silly for Fast and Furious, which they're always kind of popcorn, eject your brain, just enjoy the movies. But the latest one, even myself, I was just, oh God, even I'm getting tired now of them.
Yeah, yeah. The hardcore fan, like, what are they at 10x?
Yeah.
So it's like, you're even losing the ones who are there to see 10. So hey, maybe they'll throw you a curveball with 11, and it'll be like really dark and like totally revamp the whole series.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Maybe Ghost Rider makes an appearance or something like that. Hey, that would be cool. I know Ghost Rider versus Family or something.
Yeah, the Family.
Yeah. How do you when did you first pick up a guitar, and how do you keep your fingers in shape as well? Because you must spend a long time. Well, I know you do. Playing the guitar and just keeping those fingers healthy. How do you is there a routine you particularly got to maintain them?
Yeah. So I actually picked up the guitar, I think I was 11, but I didn't get serious about it till I was about 12. My older cousin Sam gave me an old guitar. It was like a Fender Squire Strat. Yeah. So, and the strings were like 5 or 6 years old, and they had the black grime and the rust everywhere.
Being well used.
Was broken. Yeah, I didn't know how to tune it, and I took some lessons, and I got really bored with it. But then I don't know. I moved away, and it was summer, and I'm just sitting on the computer, and I see it in the corner, and I'm like, I'm gonna learn this. I don't know if I'll get good at it. Yeah. But I figured if I do it every day, eventually I will be good at it. Yeah. And eventually it just it took on a life of its own, and now it's like my favorite toy, the guitar. It's like a little kid and having a favorite toy. You have to like learn to love it, but then once you do, it's like lifelong. You know what I mean? And stop, and then it opens up so many avenues. Like I've met so many friends. Like I'm so shy generally, and I feel like being able to play the guitar and music is my bridge to be able to talk to people, because usually, they'll come up to me, and once somebody talks to me, I'll talk to them all day.
Same,
um,
same.
and I think it's just opened a lot of avenues for me. And then to practice, I don't know. You start your first band, and it's not very good, but then you guys get good together, uh, and you do like the battle of bands and stuff. But then you move on and you meet new people, and you just keep getting better, and you always learn something new from the people you're meeting. And then you learn beyond the music, you learn how to record the music, and you learn how to contact artists and how to get gigs. And yeah, it's just like a whole big expensive hobby.
Very much. Yeah, it really is. And one that sadly, COVID, I mean, just decimated the entire music scene and the arts as a whole.
Yeah.
Good that we are seeing in a lot of countries globally that the scenes are coming back, but there are other instances where they're still struggling, and that's really sad, because I think it really did make people realize, and artists themselves, just what that relationship we have with music, theatre, movies, how it's a good form of escapism, or if we're going through tough times, like with the single Seems Like Yesterday, then how we can relate to that, can that help us get to a better space? It's really been hit hard, and there was a question I really wanted to ask you, and I'm really interested in your opinion on this as a musician, um, and a vocalist. They've been talking a lot about AI on the news, how it can mimic people's voices. And there was something I saw last night, and it was saying now the AI could essentially kind of like rip off your voice and then
Yeah.
go and put it on some music as if it was you singing it. And I saw that and I thought, my God, I thought, is that where we're going to be at now? And I thought, this is something I'm going to start asking people on the show, because,
Yeah.
I mean, so what's your thoughts on that? Do you think this is kind of opening Pandora's box in a way, and getting quite crazy and scary if that's something you're going to have to fight against, where someone's then going to start ripping off your voice?
Yeah. That is really scary and really sad. It's like,
Yeah, very.
because I just feel like, AI is going to screw up a lot of people's jobs. Probably mine included, not just music. I'm a closed captioner by day, so I provide a service to deaf and hard of hearing. So, um, I mean, we always worry that AI is going to take that over, voice recognition and all that. So, but if it takes over music too, I mean, man, I I don't know, but that's the thing. I wouldn't like listen to AI music like seriously though. I
Yeah,
mean, I like when it's funny. I like when it's comedic.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
like Donald Trump sings Megadeth like holy wars or something,
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
or like they bicker about like which the presidents bicker about which Megadeth record is the best or something. But um, I like that kind of stuff. Like that's good for it. I just can't imagine like going out and like buying AI music. You know what I mean? Like there's no personality, there's no feel. Although I gotta say, there's a lot of living music that has no feel too. So I don't really know.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I'm just. This just popped in my head. There was the whole hollow shows a few years back where they were having like people who'd passed on playing gigs and come and see the hologram of whoever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I was talking to a couple of friends in the underground hip hop scene, and they were saying the way it could go with bands. He said it's crazy where it's like, I've got a laptop, so I've got a laptop band, and they said I might as well put like 5 laptops on stage. And yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, we're mentioning the funny side to it, but it is quite scary, because is this where it could go? And then what? Then is somebody somehow, say, going to get the rights to somebody who's passed on
right.
and start releasing albums as that artist? I'm like, well, that's not authentic. That's not them. You don't know what their vision was, what their idea. I thought, that's yours. It might be their voice that you're captioning, but it is not them. And yeah, it's scary. And you are right about there is a lot of living music around with no soul. I mean, this could we could do a whole show just on this alone, on manufactured, disposable, plastic music that doesn't have a soul to it. That is, you know, you can hear the greed in the music. And I'm not going to bash all the artists on there, because some of them get locked into contracts and they have no choice but to do that. I think that's why independent music, in my opinion, is really starting to get out there more, because I think people have got tired of that and they want to hear something that's just got a bit of substance to it and that's real.
Yeah, definitely. I think even like in the you know, when you watch all the documentaries with like the 80s hair bands and stuff, like people just got tired of the mass produced 80s hair and they went with something more real. I feel like it's happening again in the rock scene, where it's not as produced. People, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people now, they really like stripped down. They like acoustic or like almost independent DIY better. I mean, back then the record labels, people needed money. You know, people didn't have a DAW or like a little box. Like I have one on my desk. I can record a whole album myself now. Back then you used to have to rely on record companies to go into like these big, nice studios. I mean, and people still do that, and that's definitely a viable way of doing it. It's just, it's so much easier to make music now, where you almost just cut out that middleman, and it almost sounds more real in a way.
Yeah.
You get to do what you want. You have no one breathing down your neck telling you what you can and can't do.
Yeah, so you get that creative control and freedom. Do you think, though, the negative of that, or I'm going between, I'm going from one side of the fence to the other here. Do you think, though, the negative is we've maybe got such an oversaturation now in music, particularly in the independent and underground scenes, where it's not always that the music is bad, but it's always, hey, if you like, say, band A, then think this is a bit of band A with band B, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I'm going to sound arrogant and it's not meant to be, but it's like I'll hear them and I'm like, they're good. I'm not saying it's bad music, but I'm like, if I want to listen to that band, who they sound like, I'll go and listen to that band. You know, obviously we've got our influences and you can't help them shining through, but just wondering if you think there's just that maybe a little bit too much of an oversaturation, like the negative part to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you said, I'll hear bands and like I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're particularly bad. I'm just like, oh, what's bringing me back? Like, what's so different about it? Where again, I'm not gonna go listen to the thing that they sound like. And that's the thing. It's really, since everybody is doing it now, and it is so easy to record something on your Mac and mix it and put it out on like DistroKid. You know what I mean? Like, what is making you stand out? And I think that's where being personable helps.
Yeah,
being personable
definitely.
and having like a personality online and being present. And you know, I think going out and playing helps too. Like, you know, some bands, they can't do it live. Like they rock in the studio, but you go see them and it's almost like kind of disappointing. I think if you can do all of it, people will remember that, and that's something that'll stick with them, and that might be enough to make you stand out amongst the billions of people doing like indie rock or metal or blues. And you just got to have that superstar mentality, I guess, sometimes. But
yeah, in a positive way, definitely. And being personable with people, because you do remember that it's funny, man. I've gone and seen bands before where it's not been a band I've liked, for example, but say one of my friends has. So I've gone with him to that gig. And we've got there, and then I'm like, actually, these guys are really good. They're better live than the sound on the album. So it's turned me on to that band. And then, as you said, I've had the other experience where, oh man, they sound great on their albums, and I get there, and I'm like, is this the same band? Or you know, sometimes when you get very, very good musicians, but as you said, with no personality, where it's kind of like just watching them rehearse in the studio. They do the set. Once the set's done, that's it. They've gone off the stage. No thanks. There's literally bye, and they're away.
Yeah.
And you kind of stood there, and you're like, you feel disappointed, like you know something's missing.
You didn't connect. Yeah, it's like you didn't connect with their audience. You have to talk and make some jokes and talk about some stuff and put a little bit of yourself out there. Sometimes people have a hard time with that. You know, people get like insecure or embarrassed, and you just have to be real with people.
Yeah. It's the best way to be. I mean, it's how I do these shows. I try and I would be the same talking to you if I saw you after a show. I'd ask you about your music, you know, your interests and that. You'd probably think after 20 minutes, God, does this guy ever shut up? I want to be away.
All day.
Yeah, that'd be the other thing. Yeah. Oh, I'm a gym man. Like, I've just done 2 hours. I really need a rest. I don't need another hour conversation with some. But you know, it's being just personable. I'm interested in, you know, what you guys and girls think, how you create, and then your other interests as well. You know, how you relax, all that stuff. Because I just find all of that super interesting, and it gives me an idea of who you are as a person as well. Which then, if anybody watches back, then that's another thing that they can relate to. And thinking, hey, yeah, we are all human. I know I'm sounding cliche, but oh man, I didn't know he was into, say, he had this interest or whatever. So it's all interchangeable and relatable for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So this brings me. I am going to, you know, talk about your bands as well, but just before we get into that, I know you offer, you know, guitar work. You know, teaching people. So was that from a desire as well? I understand if it helps bring in, you know, some finances to pay for what you're doing, but is it also born from wanting to give back and share your passion and knowledge with, say, the next up and coming guitar players?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's cool to be able, like, yeah, it's nice to have some gas money, a little bit of side cash. But yeah, I remember being a kid going to lessons, and I remember finding like that awesome guitar teacher, and it made you want to come back. Like, I had a guitar teacher before, and she was kind of like this older woman, and she's like, okay, we're going to go through the book now, and we're going to learn, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I'm like,
that sounds great.
Yeah, but then I met my guitar teacher, Sean, when I was like 12, and I'm like, can you teach me some Deep Purple? And he's like, yeah, dude, I love Deep Purple.
Nice.
Alice in Chains, awesome, cool. And he would just teach it to me, and that was like good enough. And until you get good enough on your own, but it's enough to keep you with it, and you always remember it too. So I mean, that would be awesome. And then, you know, I actually have a student now. He came out to one of my shows with his dad. So, and it was like I was chit-chatting with him after the show, and we were just talking for a while, and it's just good to connect with people and be personable again.
Definitely. So would you I'm going to ask a risky question here to a guitar player. Could upset you. So what's your thoughts on then those who say maybe have guitar lessons and learn that way, to those who are self-taught? Do you think it matters? Is there any prep? Doesn't matter as long as you get there, I guess.
Yeah, some people are like, oh, they're totally self-taught and they're a virtuoso, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. I think taking lessons, like, everybody's gonna have a natural skill cap. I think, like, you're only gonna get so far. I think lessons just expedite that. They just make it faster. If you got the right teacher, though, if you have someone that you connect with. But yeah, as like you said, as long as you get there and you're authentic and you're good, you know, you play clean. You don't even have to play fast. You don't have to play technical. So long as it's clean and, you know, you just have a good sound and you're in tune. And I always tell my students, you could be Yngwie Malmsteen, you could be that good, but if you're not in tune, it's all going to sound like ass anyway. So
Yeah, really is, and people will notice. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. In time and in tune. That's the most
yeah,
important thing. But
yeah,
yeah, anybody, no matter what your journey is, I think as long as it's good, it sounds good,
mm,
and you
mm,
like what you do. So
yeah. It's funny. Another gig I saw a long time ago. It was in this kind of little, really old theatre place, and I don't know apart from the States there were, and they were kind of, I wouldn't know how to describe the music. It was a mix of acoustic, bit of rock, bit of everything, I suppose. And I always remember the girl. I think she was Native American, and she was good. She was playing, I think, a mouth organ, various instruments, even some wind chime instruments. She was really good. And halfway through, it looked like she was so frustrated with the rest of the band because they were out of time completely with it. And you could see she was starting to get exasperated, and she was looking, and we all noticed, and we all felt so sorry for her. And apparently, somebody I was talking to actually, I think it was the guy that ran the venue at the time, said, come back by yourself. People just want to see you playing the instruments, because she was really good and she really stood out and she could sing as well. But the rest of the band, sadly, I don't know. They clearly hadn't spent enough time, I think, jamming together, just getting the timing down, and maybe it was thrown together last minute. I don't know. But yeah, that is definitely important what you said. That brings you on to some of your other bands as well, Zach. And I was listening to Sekond Skyn, and I really liked them. I can hear the Alice in Chains element in there, but they've got a very gritty, dirty vibes with the riffs. Pretty some good stuff to headbang to as well. Catchy vocals. So I just wondered, how did you guys get together?
So that's an interesting story. So I'm like half those guys' age. They've been jamming together since I was a little kid. So, actually, when I got older, I guess I was like 19 or 20. I actually opened for them.
Wow.
With my own band, and I was singing and playing guitar. And after the show, I met our lead singer Jesse. And he's like, "Hey man, that sounded awesome." And he's like, "I'm in Sekond Skyn, and we're headlining tonight, or we're opening for the headliner." And I'm like, "Cool, I can't wait to see you guys." So I stuck around, and they blew me away. And I thought they were really cool, and I liked their, the bluesy rock sound. Like, I'm just a sucker for that kind of music. And I'm like, I remember my friend bought their album, and on the ride home, my girlfriend and I were joking, and she's like, "Can you imagine if they ever needed a guitar player?" And then a year later, they call me up and they're like, "Hey, we need a guitar player. Are you interested in auditioning?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come down." So they sent me like 5 or 6 songs. I learned all of them, and I only jammed with them once, and they're like, "Hey, you're in the band." I'm like, "Cool,
yay,
awesome." So yeah, it was really cool. I felt like if you ever watch like Metalocalypse, like when he joins Death Clock and he's like super happy about it, it's kind of like that.
Yeah. Oh, Batman.
Yeah, and they opened me up to all kinds of new experiences. I met a bunch of new people who I see all the time now, and I talk to at the shows. And we opened for a couple bands that we opened for like Life of Agony, Monster Magnet. We just did a show with Alter Bridge at the Stone
nice. Awesome.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So I mean, just a lot of cool experiences with those guys.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful to know them and jam with them. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful to hear, man, and it is good music, and again, it adds that extra layer onto you as a musician. Because as you were saying, it's right in my hard rock kind of heavy metal self today. And yeah, I saw when I was reading about it, I opened up with Life of Agony, Monster Magnet, Stone Temple. People will think I'm stoned because I'm struggling to pronounce the name now. Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm clean. Just be folks.
It's all good. I don't judge.
Yeah. It's Stone Temple.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah. Yeah, those are beautiful experiences, man, because those are long established bands. So, for you yourself, when you're thinking, man, I'm opening up now for these, very, very famous bands, established bands. That must be kind of a pinch yourself feeling.
Yeah, it was weird. I when we opened for them, I want to say it was June 12th last year. I'm like weird with dates. I'm really good with dates. Uh, I don't have it written down anywhere,
Yeah,
but
it's just file somewhere.
yeah, it's in my file cabinet. What did we do on June 12th? Yeah, we opened for them, and I remember walking. Oh, we were going down the elevator down to like the basement, and I didn't realize it, but Dean DeLeo, the guitar player, was in the elevator with me, and I'm like, man, how did I not notice? He's got the crazy hairdo. He looks like a rock star. Like, how did I not? And I love STP. I've been listening to them for so long, and I read all the stuff. I know what they look like and everything, and I don't know. And I remember John 5 was playing with them, and Sekond Skyn just got done with their show. And John 5 has his stuff and his guys, and he's, all dressed up like John 5, and he goes out, and I'm like, whoa, that's cool. Like, just looking over your shoulder. Like, I don't say hello or anything because, they're in their zone and stuff. So it's just really cool to see where you've come throughout the years. And it hasn't been like super long, I guess. Like 15 years is just like a drop in the bucket for some bands like the Rolling Stones and Metallica. They've been going like 40, 50 years, 60, 70 years.
Yeah, Fast and the Furious movies going on forever.
Yeah. It's amazing to see where they've gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely a pinch me experience sometimes.
Yeah, but it's really amazing, and the good memories and stories to share both with family and friends and people that you talk to, man. That's really, really good. And yeah, I must admit, it was the first time that I heard Sekond Skyn, when I was listening to music for you coming on, and instantly grabbed me. But what's interesting, we've been talking about this theme with different music, different aspects, etc. Then when you jump over to Disciples of Verity, that has a completely different sound. I can hear, as you said, the grungy, dirtier blues kind of coming in with Sekond Skyn. Disciples of Verity, very much like kind of straight up metal with a bit of new metal as well.
Yeah.
So how did that one come together? Because again, it's a very different sound.
Yeah. So Mark, the other guitar player in Sekond Skyn, is actually in Disciples of Verity. So when their guy Danny dropped out and he moved away, they're like, well, what about Zach? And the guy George in Disciples is actually one of the founding members of Sekond Skyn. So it's like over the years, people move on to other projects, and this is one of the projects I guess he started back in 2018 or 19, like right before the pandemic. Like, hey, let's start an album or a band, right? So that's kind of how I know those guys. And then Disciples of Verity has me, Mark from Sekond Skyn, George, Corey Pierce from God Forbid on drums.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yeah, and then we got Corey Glover on vocals.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool. It's cool to jam with. I haven't seen them in a while, but we should be getting together soon. We might go play some shows in the near future. So.
Yeah, Living Colour as well, for me, in my opinion, are one of the are a very underrated band. They're bands a lot of people know, but I still feel have escaped the attention of a lot of people. And I'm glad that this is I'm going to show my wrestling bias here. CM Punk, who's in AEW at the moment, he comes out with Living Colour's theme, and it was so good that that's got people to notice the band again, because I've excuse me, feel something possessing me there for a moment. Sorry about that. all this talk of the dark side, etc.
Oh yeah,
I've
the dog.
invited a presence. It's disturbing me. You will no longer be able to pronounce anything in your show. Yeah. But oh god, I don't want to tempt it. But yeah, I was glad that's turned people onto that. And I've got to ask, man, how did you strike up with Corey from Living Colour? Because it's certainly
Yeah.
going.
So that ties back to Sekond Skyn. Like
Right.
back when I was a wee lad and didn't know them at all, they were playing. Their singer had just quit the band, I guess, and they were playing with Living Colour, and they needed a singer for a show. So Corey, I guess, just subbed in and sang some Sekond Skyn songs, and I guess they learned a Living Colour song, and they just, they faked it till they made it. I guess they've maintained contact throughout the years, and then George started a band, Disciples of Verity, and I guess it was more of like a compilation project, like where you just get a couple singers and a couple guitar players. It turned out Corey wanted to do a whole album with George, so they recorded the whole album, and then they had guys come and go, and then I joined the band after it. So now I'm not on the first record, but I'm on the new one that we're going to be putting out hopefully next year sometime. We'll probably start dropping some singles next year, but
Nice.
yeah, it's just cool. You never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to run into, who you're going to maintain contact with. And I'm just happy to know as many people as possible.
Yeah. So was that the kind of, was there a similar connection with how you met Corey Pierce from God Forbid? Was that tied in with Sekond Skyn at all?
I don't think so. I think George I actually don't know how they know each other. I think they're just buds. They're just like good friends, and George knows a lot of people. I don't know how he gets around and knows all these people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I was like that. I don't know. He's like a real good networker though. So yeah, they know each other. They're friends. I think Corey was staying at his house for a while, and so they're like best friends. So. Yeah, so I mean it's just another bonus to have someone who's of that caliber of musician in our band also. So
yeah,
and he's cool. He's quirky, and he's funny too. So
well, that keeps it fresh. No days ever boring then.
Yeah. It's never boring.
If you get some tales for sure. Do you? This might be premature to ask, but do you plan to maybe come over to Europe to promote the new album with Sekond Skyn, also maybe Disciples of Verity doing some shows as well?
That would be really cool. If the demand is there, definitely.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
The shows, I would love to. I've never actually even left the United States. I've never even been to Canada, so that would be really cool to do something like that down the line.
Yeah.
But again, you never know; it could happen.
Yeah. We'll watch this space for sure. Be very interested to see. So you mentioned the love of the blues there, and for me with blues music, and we've been talking about like grit and authenticity with music. I think, my opinion, it's one of those music forms which has always retained that soul to it, that gritty realness, going right back to Robert Johnson, one of the forerunners of everything. Yeah. And it's just something magical about it, and especially if you hear as well blues rock it combined, and you're just like, man, and it's so captivating. And there's something, for example, I came across a band from the West Coast, possibly might be located around LA. They're called Shotgun Sawyer.
Okay.
And man, they just sound like kind of like a blues rock band, kind of from that that old school era. And I thought, man, this is pretty tight stuff. So yeah. What is it a similar thing with you? That's attracted you to the blues?
I love the licks. I love the tastiness of it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you could shred arpeggios and stuff like that. Doesn't really do it for me. It's the bends, it's the double stops, it's the timing, it's the good timing of the lead players and the
yeah,
voice
yeah,
especially. And I love the bass too. You know, the walking bass, and you know it's cool. Like especially when you go beyond the guitar and the vocals and the drums and the bass, like it all comes down to like even the stops, like when to play and when not to play, or when to really dig in and when to lay back. I think just there, because there's not a lot to it, but the dynamics are really key to blues music, and I think it caters to a lot of different instruments, so you can have a lot of different people and everybody
yeah,
can trade off solos, and it's almost like having a big party on stage.
yeah,
And
very
that
much
was
so.
one thing that really drew me to like blues, like the spirit of blues music. But yeah, I love like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, he's more of like a newer guy, but I mean, just like the coolness factor of it too. Like you could just every note has a lot of value to it. He's not throwing 20 million notes at you. Um, and he knows how to play quick, but then he can play nice and slow, and they can bring it way down, or they
Yeah,
can really rock out. Or like Jeff Healey is like another blues guy, like the blind guy playing it on his lap. Like he just really feels it, and he's like looking cross-eyed up into the sky, and you know what I mean. So I mean, it's really cool. Uh, I think just and the tones too. The tones also. If you could get a nice sweet like Fender and then like some delay, you could do a lot of fun stuff with it. Just like playing off that delay and getting the nice with the whammy bar, just a little feather. A lot of like tasteful little, like you could play a note, but you could play a note like 20 different ways. And I think that's a big thing to pick up from blues guitar in general.
yeah, yeah. There's some. I've seen shows featuring BB King. I just sat there on stage and it starts say with the footstep footstep, sorry, and then the tempo increases, and then play, and then it'll stop, and then interact with the audience, tell a funny tale, and then
Yeah.
just back to doing this or something on the guitar, and you're like, man, that's absolute fire. Like Joe Bonamassa, one of the newer guys as well. I've not seen
Yeah.
him live. He's cool, and I love it when even some bands I've heard now, the names escape me, were live. I'll probably remember when we're done, but even bands that mix in that bit of outlaw country with the blues, kind of
Yeah.
give it that Wild West vibe, and
Yeah.
yeah, it immediately transports my imagination back to that era of history where I feel like I'm in one of those Western movies, or can see somebody, walking, or, riding through a town on a horse, being hunted by outlaws or something. It's just, I think it's fantastic, man.
Yeah, it's funny. We just watched that movie, the Crossroads, the other day. I had never seen it
Right.
until the other day, and I always
Yeah.
wanted to. I thought it was such a great movie. Like you're saying, like they're like on the run from the cops, and they're like
Yeah.
out in the desert and stuff. I just like the whole vibe of it was
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, I mean those guys, they can play. They can really play, and like you said, they can stop and they can like on a dime and interact with the audience. And
Yeah.
again, it's being personable, and you'll remember that. You'll
Yeah.
always remember a player like that.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you that takeaway experience, thinking, man, when are they coming back here again? Or when can I go and see them? Or if you were on vacation somewhere and you see they've got a date in that city, things right, I'm going to go and see them. It's like New Orleans Blues Festival, I'd absolutely love to go to that, man.
Yeah.
Even Chicago as well, so many of those places. So that's a perfect excuse for me to ask you, Zach. Um, if all of a sudden I was blessed with unlimited finances and I could say, right, Zach, you tell me where you want to go in the world, where would be some of the places that you've always wanted to visit and play as well?
Yeah, I would say probably in around Nashville. I've never been to Nashville, and I hear, and like I'm not used to it around here, and I'm kind of like a little younger, so like I haven't really experienced where there's music on every corner. It's always like you got to travel 40 minutes out to like a venue.
Yeah, know the feeling.
a couple bands. Like it would be cool to have your pick in the town. Where do I want to go? Oh, that place is known for these kind of bands. Oh, well, that band frequents this place all the time. And imagine like all the people you would meet and what you could learn and who you could maybe write and collaborate with. I think that would be so cool.
I think any city like that where it's got that rich musical heritage and history from, as you said, who you would meet, what you would learn, and you might find once you've been somewhere like that you could come up with something you've never thought of before. It's like the writers doing the same. They'll go to a part of the world or somewhere they've never been, and they sat there and the next thing of being able to come up with this idea for a novel or a movie, or as you said, the same with musicians. It's amazing what can inspire us. So outside of real life experiences, what else inspires you as a musician? Do you draw from everything?
I really like to write from like personal experience, like Neil Young, writers like that, where they just write about like what's bothering them or what they'd like to see in the world, or movies and stuff I read, or not even stuff that necessarily happens to me, but like stuff that happens to like friends, and like I try to imagine like how that made them feel, or I try to relate. Or I was watching a Metallica documentary, and I was watching James Hetfield talk about like what his process was, and he's like, man, I always used to write about shit that would scare the hell out of me, like the electric chair and stuff, or like in one where the guy's got no limbs and he can't see and he can't hear. He's like, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, what a cool concept to write about something that would. Yeah. And I love horror. I love like horror movies. So like a lot of like, not so much like the blood and gore horror movies, but like the mind, like the mental stuff. So I really like that kind of stuff, like suspense. It's very thematical, and it's really cool. I like the imagery, so I would say that influences me a lot as like an artist, like that kind of like the old movie, like the 70s, 80s, even some of the 90s, like horror mind flicks. So.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm a horror fan as well, and those kind of movies, when they're shot in the right way and they have that suspense, and it could almost be like a horror thriller in a way, and you don't see the monster, the creature, or the villain, whatever's happening until right at the end or halfway through, and it keeps you on the edge because you're guessing, you're wondering, and then it does have that essence of horror there. Not just where it's like a gore fest where it's just like, oh, okay, this is just shock value for the sake of it. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you're wearing a Black Sabbath shirt at the moment, so as soon as I've mentioned that, you probably know which story I'm going to bring up. But was it Geezer from the band who said he woke up that night or something and supposedly saw the devil on the end of his bed, turn around and pointing to him, this like dark figure, and I think that's what inspired them for. Oh, now I forget the album. But I thought that can't have been pleasant by any shape or means. Waking up and see, that's something you're certainly going to remember. But there's an essence of that. I mean, that inspired the music and an album out of it. So
I love Black Sabbath, and I love hearing all the stuff that would influence them and that nobody was really talking about, like the occult. And stuff, and everybody thought they were a satanic band, and he's like, no, we're not. It was about not being satanic, being scared of Satan. Everybody was blowing it out of proportion, and I'm thinking, man, if they could see what people are putting out now. it's just funny that like now it just seems so vanilla. But it's the original. It's like watching an old horror movie. It's like listening to the source material. That's why I love it so much.
That's the way I've always described death metal to people as well. And as things I say, look, it's just really like a musical version of a horror movie, especially because it's always got those themes or the blood, guts, etc. That's all it is. I mean, there's many bands that I like from that genre myself. There's so many. So I love the heaviness of the music. Yeah, it's good to headbang to, and I think, man, just hearing something that heavy, like you
Yeah.
say, it's those different moods. And for example, I talked with on, I think it was Monday, a German death metal band, and they wrote an album called Hellgate. And on the cover, there's a picture of like a gateway into hell, so people could take a first glance look at that and maybe get the wrong idea. And when I talked to the guys, it was all about COVID, the hell people had been living to, like this gateway into this world of this post-apocalyptic world from COVID. Is this the future that we could possibly go into, or hopefully
Yeah.
will things get better? And they said that's what was inspired a lot of the writing and music, was that experience of COVID. So it's often, I think, with, like we're saying about making songs that engineer people to think in subtle ways. It's like sometimes look beyond the surface. Not everything is as it appears. You could see a cover that would think, oh man, I'm getting totally the wrong idea. And it's actually not that at all. And when you hear what is inspiring people like yourselves, why they're writing, why they're playing this music, it's pretty amazing and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know. There's always a lot more, like you said, beneath the surface to
Yeah.
what inspired people to want to come up, because it's probably scares them.
Yeah.
It's something that scared them in alternate reality where, again, we go back to like the single I did, the guy, you could be in the guy in the chair. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to be that guy.
No,
You want to
no.
be the guy who's outside and like
Yeah.
doing what he wants to do and living a positive experience,
Yeah.
not the negative.
But there's a good way you could also interpret that as well on the artwork, because there's where there's the window and the light is shining through, and you could kind of interpret in the sense of, as you've just said, no one wants to be that guy sat there who's withered away. Do you want to go into the light and be in that positive place and start a new journey and get out of the dark? So there's that subtle meaning there, I think, on that cover as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's another band I read that you do as well, which in the press release it is an art rock duo called Riversend.
Yeah.
Seems to be your latest other musical creation. I just wondered, how and when you got the idea to do that and what it's about, and if you could tell us a little bit about the music as well, please.
Yeah. So Riversend is a duet with my girlfriend actually.
Oh, all right,
So
cool.
Olivia. So Olivia is a longtime closet singer, and I finally got her out of that nutshell, and she finally put herself out there. And I'm like, there you go, you did it. Now let's do like more songs, and
Yeah,
we pumped out a couple songs. And she's very into like spirituality and like the afterlife and um, not the occult, but like communication with people who have passed. Um, so I mean, even if you don't believe in that stuff, I think it's comforting, and I like it. I think it's a cool theme to play around with and explore. So a lot of my music doesn't really deal with like supernatural, so I thought that was a cool theme to run with. And we're very, I guess, more like ambient. We have like maybe some country rock vibes. It's almost kind of similar to like Seems Like Yesterday, but a little lighter, I
yeah,
guess. Um, yeah. So, and it's nice to hear a female voice on it because it just sounds so like soothing too and ghostly.
mm,
Um, I slap the reverb on. I give her the cool delays, and it sounds really cool. She's really into like David Gilmour, like his beyond Pink Floyd, his solo stuff. It's like kind of jazzy, and almost like I don't know how to describe it. Especially like Division Bell, Pink Floyd,
yeah,
beyond Roger Waters and all that. It's got a totally different sound than what Pink Floyd was. And she's really into like sewing, which is they kind of remind me of Opeth a little bit, but like more condensed, I guess you could say. So yeah, that was it's a fun project that we've been exploring.
Do you have planned to do a full album?
Yeah, I would like to at least like a 6 song, maybe EP.
Yeah.
We have 4 original songs. We did one song. We did a Pantera cover actually.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we did "Revolution Is My Name."
Oh man, that's one of their other
Yeah,
songs. Isn't
but we made it totally different, like apples to oranges. Like you almost can't compare them because they're so different.
it? Yeah.
Bluesy, it's ghostly, it's everything Riversend aims to do. So
Curious.
yeah,
That means, I try to keep an open mind with many things, so that doesn't put me off. I think there's something to be said for spirituality, etc. There's definitely a good and a bad in the world. That's obvious. So, you know, no, who knows? And I watch a lot of those. I'm a huge movie fan, but I
yeah.
watch a lot of documentaries as well, all about mysterious creatures, urban legends, Mothman, for example,
Yeah.
Jersey Devil in your parts,
Mhm.
all of those kind of stuff. Because I think, well, where did these legends come from? Is there a grain of truth in them? Who knows what people have seen? There's got to be, if there's repeated sightings and finding evidence, there's got to be something to them. And then even with, the themes you were talking about, even much things along those lines, because I like to, I like to try and keep myself open, not be shut off in my thinking, or just right. I'm just going to stay in this lane because it's what I know and because it's easy and it's safe. No, I want to grow beyond that. So I'm very very interested to certainly get in touch when you have when you have more material as well and it's out there ready to share, because it would be great to talk to you both about that.
Yeah.
You've hooked my imagination all again. Um, I've noticed as well, we are seeing in Melon at the moment, lots of bands releasing. I'm going to do my best to describe it. Kind of like, it sounds like a very ancient version of folk music. I've heard they'll call it neo folk, and it's like got a
Okay.
lot of traditional, very ancestral instruments, often with a female singer. And it's very beautiful, soothing music. And I've noticed this seems to be something some metal bands are doing at the moment. For example, there's a band called Heilung, and they kind of look like Neolithic in a way. I think the singer, when she has like a deer's horns on her, the rest kind of look like kind of prehistoric men
Huh.
in a way, like very. I want to say Vikings, but way before, like a very
Yeah.
ancient version of them. And they've got all these traditional instruments. They've even using, I think, you know, bones from to make. I'm not saying I've gone and got someone's real. Careful where I'm going here, but yeah, it looks very theatrical, and certainly when I've watched them on YouTube, like more of a stage experience, and I thought that would be something to see, because it's almost as if it's like this recreation of, say, ancient humans, with maybe how they made music back then, with like the chanting, chiming after drums. It's very very different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very it is cool that they're you make a good point that they're including a lot of like world music, I guess you would
Yeah, yeah,
uh
yeah,
like yeah, like ancient like first pieces written and very tribal.
yeah.
um and what's the one band where they almost put like Gregorian chant, or they do like that vocal fry, like the droning, like the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's kind of what the yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. I mean, like you said, it's cool to put that kind of spin on it because it hasn't really been done, at
Mm,
least not to an excessive level.
mm.
Yeah, so I think throwing bits and pieces in there is always a neat blend, and again, you will remember it.
Yeah, yeah, because it, like we said, it catches your attention. It's something different. It's like bands, Orphan Land from Israel. that mix in a lot of Middle Eastern music. There's definitely a spiritual edge there, and it's fused with heavy metal, and it's really, really beautiful music. And you're thinking, well, I want to hear that again. The same with there's so many bands are doing this now, but like the classical instruments mixed with metal, and then what's the other band, Nile, who kind of like play ancient Egyptian music with death metal, and you think, how would this work? And you hear it, and you're like, wow, this is very, harsh growling vocals, very furious drums, heavy guitars at parts, and then it can come in with very harmonious melodic sound rooted in ancient Egypt, or a fast version of that, and you're thinking, wow, that's that must have been some process to go through for sure.
Yeah, I remember, what was it, Rivers of Nile, when they threw in the saxophone solo in there. That was like, whoa, that was really cool. Like, I want more of that. And then they had like a funky section in the middle, and then they brought it down, but then it was like they exploded, and it was really cool to hear that level of like dynamic control and like that willingness to try something and experiment with not your typical I guess instrumentation for that genre.
No, you're right. It's doing something different, taking that chance, and we say standing out, saying, right, we'll remember this. And man, it'd be interesting if somebody one day puts a documentary out about this when it's kind of been around a little bit longer, with all this music. That would be really cool to see for sure. Just get a little thirsty.
I hear you. Yeah, me too. I blew through an iced coffee. I blew through half a bottle of water. Yeah, I hear what you're saying with the documentary. Like that guy, what was his name? Sam Dunn, and the history of metal on VH1. Yeah. Imagine if he did that again when he's like, 70, in like, I don't know, 2050, when there's like even more subgenres that he can map out.
Yeah. Oh man, it'd be interesting to see that evolution, because I think, okay, there's different genres of all music, we know that, and metal gets known for this, and I do agree the subgenres in metal are absolutely ridiculous. There's so many offshoots, and it keeps evolving, because in recent years we've had like electro metal now, where they're fusing EDM with metal. That's come out, or that drum and bass crossover with metal, which I guess can be kind of rooted in the Prodigy in a way. And that's interesting as well, because sometimes you're thinking, well, this wouldn't work, and then there's some guys who are pulling it off, and it sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, like very futuristic, quite ahead of its time in a way. Again, the nerd in me then just starts thinking of sci-fi movies and everything, seeing androids dancing around to it. So it's testament to the power of metal in a positive way, that it does keep drawing from absolutely everything, and yet we still have the classic sound, we still have the straight up bands as well, and that we'll always love that. People do, there's still a place for that, and then we have the other sounds coming in. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's really cool. I what was I gonna say? Another trend that's going on, a lot of like 80s stuff is coming back too, and they're
all the synth,
the synth, and it's like, that's kind of cool. Like, I love all that 80s stuff. A lot of people are like, it's so cheesy. But when you do it right, I think of like movies like Blade Runner. Like this, I guess, like the cyberpunk, and, Harrison Ford running around in a trench coat in the rain, chasing around a spiky haired dude and shooting at androids. And it's definitely very thematic again. It paints a picture.
And it stimulates the imagination, and you hear it done right. I mean, we've seen it on various TV series, Stranger Things, for example, continued in games, cyberpunk games. There's people doing comics based on that world, and I'm just thinking this stuff just looks so amazing, because it's like got this kind of classic kind of old world fashion with the claws, even some of the technology, because the steampunk vibe comes in there as well sometimes. Fused with the new. It's like both the old and the new coming together.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating, man. I've come across some of the synth you're talking about, synthwave, dark synth, and when you hear it, you're like, yeah, there is something to it. I'm not saying I've liked everything in it,
Yeah.
but there's certainly aspects. There's some artists I've heard where I've been, this is pretty amazing. It's like some sci-fi movie soundtrack, and then if they've ever had vocals on top of it, again, usually female vocals,
Yeah.
and they have them singing a kind of very haunting, quiet way, and then that's kind of put on top of the synth, and there's something about it where it's where again it grabs your attention, like we're saying, being memorable. So I'd be curious to see where that goes. Maybe I'm putting this out there. Maybe it's, as you were saying, people are getting tired of all the manufactured soulless music that they started looking at other eras. What can we draw from that? Can we bring that back, or what's good? Can we use that? And this is getting out there again for people to discover our new bands. So maybe that's going on. Maybe someone will, as you said, be interesting to see if someone makes a documentary about this at some point.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Maybe we'll get Sam Dunn Jr.
Yeah. You never know. Maybe I know another new Blade Runner movie or something.
Blade Runner 2099.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford hologram. They're saying they're not even there anymore. It's just AI actor.
Yeah, and an AI synth band, certainly.
Yeah, or even like in the new Star Wars when they brought the guy who played Captain Tarkin back.
Oh, Peter Cushing.
CGI face. What's his name?
Peter Cushing, I think it is.
Yeah, that was nuts. I was like, whoa, how'd they do that? And now when I saw it, it was like mind-blowing, but now I watch it because it's from 2016. I'm like, man, that looks really cheesy.
It does at the time. At the time you think, oh man, and then you look back and it's like, that was a bit not quite the level of a Sci-Fi Channel movie, even though I find those atrociously entertaining. So what would be when you aren't playing music with your bands, mentioned you like movies as well, so what would be some of your favorite movies and what you enjoy doing to relax?
Some of my favorite movies, I love Halloween.
Classic.
The first one, and then depending on what avenue you want to go on, do I want to watch the OG Halloween timeline? Do I want to watch the new David Green, what's his name, Blumhouse production one? Some are a lot better than others, but the original is the best. I love the Amityville Horror.
All right,
that's a great one. And that's the thing with the ghost movies now. It's not anything over the top. It was just like little minor occurrences, like the window falls on the kid's hand and they can't open it, or like the flies are on the priest and he gets told to get out. It's just like mildly creepy things that like aren't like so far-fetched. It's not like there's like a demonic nun picture on the wall, and like who would have that? Who would have a demonic nun picture on the wall? Like, this is so Hollywood. I love the Hangover movies. As dumb as they are, those are great. I love watching movies. I love I do a lot of work around my house, I guess, like a lot of yard work. I got ducks, I got cats, I got a dog, so all kinds of stuff. How about yourself?
Oh man. Well, I was talking with a guy last night, and this definitely comes up. Actually, I found the recent Dune movie. So he said I thought that was really good, and I am very much looking forward to part 2. I thought it was incredible. Let's see. Most martial art action movies from Asia I will love, even though people say, well, it's just watching people fighting for 2 hours, but hey, I'm into martial arts. So
what kind of martial arts do you do?
Jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Thai boxing. I've done Taekwondo in the past.
Okay.
You know, and Hapkido and other disciplines. But I try and now focus on the more functional arts, I guess. I do.
Yeah.
I still respect traditional martial arts. I believe, like with music, they've each got a place for people. For example, if you're, you know, you're healing from injury, you know, a gentle art, a very gentle, relaxing one, which not too strenuous, can help keep you still doing something whilst you're recovering.
Yeah.
And the spiritual side is very important to me as well. Might not be to everybody who trains in it, but it is to me. It's not just about the physical, the keeping fit. I like the philosophy, the history behind them.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I'm hoping to actually get some at some point martial arts historians on who can talk about the culture, where how it began, why, where, philosophy behind it. I think that would be so interesting for people to hear.
That would be awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be really cool.
But I love it, man. I always have. Martial arts, then music, movies. That's kind of like my three passions. And then wrestling. Hey, pro wrestling. Look, I watch them all. Even WWE, which isn't that great, but it's still wrestling, and it's like you were saying with the Hangover movies. It's the comedy and humor I like. It's the escapism. Yes, it's so over the top. I know if they did half the stuff they would, you know, do in reality, no one would stand up or anything. But it's just so funny. It's just so ridiculous. Now I do respect the stunts they do, the coordination.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's it's so ridiculously funny though, and entertaining. And it's like, you know, a guy could come dressed as, I don't know, half a chicken or something, dressed, you know, where else would you see something like that in a guarantee movie? Like, you know, guys throwing, but you know, throwing each other through tables and barbed rings and all sorts of. You're like, yeah, this is madness, but it's just eccentric entertainment, and I find like things like that so funny. Like a lot of those stoner comedies can be funny as well for that reason.
Yeah, like Grandma's Boy. Yeah, that's a good one.
They're just so silly, but let's see. I did like I tell you what movie I really liked, The Joker. I liked the journey of how he became the Joker. What happened to him. I found that quite interesting actually. And then I'm a sucker for the Lord of the Ring movies because I kind of see those as some of my favorites. I love those. Hey, I'll let you get going, man. I know I'm keeping you a long time.
Oh no, don't worry. I'm cool hanging out. Yeah, my I like to call her the Wolf Lady. My dog Mitzi, somebody's at the door. But yeah, I'm cool to chat. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings was good. I actually just saw all three of them recently, so that was good. What was your favorite one?
Do you know, man, this is a tough one. I think it's either The Two Towers or Return of the King.
Okay.
I love them all. And again, it's the journey aspect of how you see those characters starting out, where they're very fresh, untested. The hobbits are very innocent. There's Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli, who are obviously a bit more battle hardened, kind of know what's coming. And then how you see, is it like Frodo, you know, Elijah Wood at the end of that, where it's kind of like he's accepted that fate and he's, you know, resigned to it, even loses hope at a point.
Yeah.
That was really interesting to see. And Sam Ganji sticking by him as his friend, who's wanting to help him, like pull him out of that.
Going into Mordor and howling back and
hell. Yeah. I mean, okay, it's a fantasy movie, and this is just how my imagination works, man. If you think you were born in a world like that and you grew up in that world, and if you went out of the forest is okay, and then you go out into this hellscape, and that's literally your reality where everything wants to kill you.
Yeah.
That is both so frightening to try and comprehend. It's so inconceivable. And then thinking, my God, if I don't try and learn to defend myself in some way. That's it. My life expectancy literally could be seconds because there's creatures, there's all the orcs.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. Yeah, like people who grow up in like the bubble and stuff, and then they go out into the real world and they're like, whoa, man, like people are living way different than they are. And yeah, it's amazing the different people you meet and just all the different walks of life. And yeah, and like learning to defend yourself. Like, oh, I would love to take a martial art. I'd like to learn to defend myself.
Hey, it'd be hella useful when you're doing the shows, because I'm sure you're going to encounter the odd idiot, sadly, or someone who's had too much alcohol and can't hold it in place, or is just downright disrespectful. But if you think about the Lord of the Ring movies, I even like the Hobbit movies as well. And if you think there's so many kind of metaphors for the real world as well, it's like coming across those like people who've got so much hate in them, bad people, very negative. So it's like, we've got to learn how to deal with that or stay away from those people, because I think is it in the special edition of Return of the King, where the men of the West are gathered outside the gates of Mordor, and I think the mouth of Sauron comes out on the horse.
Yeah.
Man, the way that was shot and that visor and his voice, and I'm like, God, could you imagine if you were literally on that battlefield and that thing come out, and even the voice alone is enough probably to make you pass out on the spot. And it's do you want? And I mean, great influence for metal for obvious reasons. But I found the whole thing fascinating. I tell you a movie I recently saw, and I even enjoyed this. We were chatting about it last night, and it's a silly movie. And I must admit, I did watch it thinking, I'm not going to enjoy this at all, but it's actually quite funny. Is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Oh, okay.
It's actually really funny, and I'm going to drop a spoiler. I'm sorry, folks, but this is how I'm going to sell the movie. When you get halfway through, there's kind of an underground scene, kind of similar to the Mines of Moria, and they come across a dragon that's an overweight dragon, and it can't fly because it's too overweight. It can't breathe fire. There's a point where it's chasing the party of heroes, and it loses its balance, and the camera pans back, and you just see this like pot-belly dragon rolling. And it's so stupidly again over the top, but it's just one of those movies where it's just sit there and laugh. I do have a soft spot for silly movies as well. Outside of sci-fi and fantasy and horror, sometimes you just want to sit there and just have a right giggle and laugh, man.
You gotta, in those movies, you gotta have a little bit of like. I was watching, what did we watch recently? The Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
And I watched it again. Like, I haven't seen it in a long time. And I'm like, these are actually pretty funny, but in like a serious kind of way, like the banter between him and Alfred. Like, I like when movies, they can be serious, but they can't be like totally serious the entire time, because like, I don't know. You got to get some lightness out of it at least, and the parts that were funny had me like really laughing too. I don't know.
Yeah, especially the way the actors can deliver the lines. It's like you're right. It's like you can get those movies where they're not essentially a comedy, but they can be a part where it's a way a line is delivered or a scene which is funny. For example, a scene in Predator 2, classic. There's a part where Danny Glover's chasing Danny Glover's in an apartment block and he's looking for the Predator. And the Predator's in a bathroom, kind of like using a med kit trying to heal itself. And this old lady comes out of her room and she's like creeping out there and she's going, Herb, there's someone in the bathroom. Something like that. And she comes... Yeah. She goes and gets like a huge sweeping brush to take on like this 8-foot, high galactic alien hunter. And she's screaming. The next thing, it just runs through the wall, runs down the corridor. And Danny Glover comes running along, out of breath, says to me, honey, I'm a cop. And she's like, I don't give a, I don't think he gives a honey. And he was, that was just so funny. And things like that, just, it interjects that broke, that moment of lightness there. And again, it gets, like we've been saying about remembering things, it gets you remembering, like you'll tell people, oh God, yeah, I remember that scene. Sometimes even when it's a bad movie, and be, oh, but yeah, I like that scene, I remember that part.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, but definitely Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Dune, Joker movie, those are some recent favorites. Top Gun Maverick was good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah.
I heard it was really good, actually.
Yeah, really good. Even the new Mission Impossible wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Maybe not the best one out of the series, but it was still pretty good. But the one I'm looking forward to is Voyage of the Demeter, because I'm interested to see. It's Dracula's coffin on that ship, the Journey.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been done before that I know of. So I was like, again, things being different, I thought, right, this has me. There's something about it. So I'm hoping it's as good as it looks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when does that come out? Next month?
I think I heard a rumor it was out on the 11th, and I looked this Friday and it wasn't listed. Now, usually some of the movies now come out at the same time, both in the States and over here. But I've got a feeling. I think you guys get it first. So it might be out this Friday on your side, and then maybe in the UK the week after.
Yeah, I can't wait, because actually last Halloween we did like a deep dive into like all the Draculas. We watched like Bram Stoker's one with Winona Ryder. We watched that one, and Keanu Reeves. We watched what did we watch? Dracula Untold was good. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people. I read it. I'm like, people hated it. I'm like, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was pretty cool.
It's a decent action movie.
Yeah, definitely. I love the Bela Lugosi one, and actually somebody told me, and I didn't realize it when I was watching it, but after, they're like, there's no music in that movie, and I'm like, huh, like it makes it so eerie and uncomfortable.
Yeah, silent movie.
Yeah, basically, it's just them talking and doing things, and there's really no music. And I'm like, that is kind of that's going to be probably one of the first ones I watch this year again, because I got to watch it. I haven't only seen it like once or twice.
I'm going to have to look that up and watch it. You know what I've noticed with some of those? We have two channels here on TV called Legend and Horror Extra. And they often, on Sunday evenings, they'll show classic cinema right from the 30s to present day.
Really?
So they'll show, it's super interesting.
Huh.
So they'll show a lot of the classic horrors, and some of them I've watched, like those, classic Hammer horror movies. And I was talking to someone recently, one of my friends here, and I said, one thing I've noticed compared with like the really old school horrors compared to some of the new ones is, there was a movie, I think it was Dracula, it was Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, the guy who played Tarkin.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, when they fought, boy, did those guys fight. And I noticed they chased each other everywhere. It wasn't just, I'm going to walk a couple of steps and catch you. Dracula really did sprint after him. And budget constraints then, they didn't have the technology that we have now, but it made it believable and menacing. It's like, this guy really is in danger and he's going after him. And I know some of the effects look a little dated and cheesy in parts, but the atmosphere is there. And I think they wanted to get that across to people, and it works. This guy is having to run from Dracula, because if he doesn't, Dracula has got him, and that's it.
It's real in that sense. Like the acting's there, like you said, the tone and the vibes are there, and like sometimes the effects, like I'm good with a couple of cheesy effects here and there, but you know what I mean? It's not gonna make or break a good movie at the core. Like the passion is there to make a good flick by the director. So
it's like the Friday the 13th movies, which I am a sucker, but the guy he like walks at the speed of light, Jason, doesn't he? And still catches everyone. It's just like,
I know. I was watching them. I'm like, the only one I really like is the original one where it's his mom. I'm like, you know what? Because that's someone's mom could be a deranged psycho killer if their counselors let the kid drown. You know, I mean, that's actually like believable.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't know. They're just so like comic book esque. You know, like especially Jason X, the one where he's in outer space.
Oh, God, I do love that movie. I must admit, they are a guilty pleasure of mine, movies like that as well. That one is it's got Tony Todd in from Candyman fame and many other movies, and I think he's the guy who plays the military officer, and it's like really over the top. And I think there's that moment, you know what I'm going to say? I think is it when Jason sticks the knife in the guy, and he goes something like, "You've got to do more than that to take me out," and then he pushes the knife and he goes, "Yeah, that'll do it," and then he's
again though, it's funny as hell.
It is. It's hilarious. I think the recent movie they did, well, not so recent now, but the kind of Friday the 13th reboot that had Jason running in those movies, and I think he was chasing people underground.
They made him
that was. But I still didn't like it as much as the cheesy originals, I guess, because they've got that humor in them. I think that's probably why I was watching them more for the comedy than anything else.
Campy Halloween movie. I always tell my girlfriend, she's like, I can't do the horror movies. I'm like, yes, you can. Believe me, you can. You can do it.
I'll tell you one of my favorites if you're going about movies. And it was a series based on the movies, Ash versus Evil Dead, the series.
Yeah.
Oh God, man, I was so good that got cancelled.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the Evil Dead flicks. I love Evil, especially the original one.
Oh, the same man. Apparently, Bruce Campbell, I think, and I might not have this 100%, because it's a while ago since I read wherever it was, but I think there was so many people pirating the series, which led to it being cancelled. And I was so gutted because it was one of the funniest shows I've seen in a long time, honestly. And it is the classic Evil Dead where it's got that blend of horror but the humor as well. And I think horror comedy is fantastic. Horror
like Zombieland. Like actually, sometimes there are parts that were like, whoa.
Yeah.
But then it's hilarious though.
Yeah.
Right after that.
Yeah, it's that duality with it, and I was so bummed when it got cancelled because spoiler alert, I'll just say it's kind of left a bit on a cliffhanger, which relates to Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 3, and I was like, man. So I haven't seen anything like that since, other than I think Snoop Dogg was possibly in the Daylight movie on Netflix about vampire hunters. That was okay. But yeah, I'm a sucker for anything like that because I find them just so, like we've been saying, the Hangover, they're so over the top, but they're so funny, and it's that escapism. And sometimes that's what you want. That's something you need. You're in a mood for. You just want something where you can just eject your brain, have a good laugh. It's very eccentric, over the top. I'm a kind of person that can sit and watch the Jackass movies and think those are hilarious as well.
Yeah, and what's scary is those are real too. That's what I think. Yeah, Jackass is almost like a horror movie too. Because I couldn't imagine letting a snake bite my junk and stuff like that. Like, I'm always like,
or you instinctively as a guy when it happens, you're like,
what's wrong with them?
Crazy stuff, hilarious, but certainly crazy. There was a scene, I think it was in one of the Bad Grandpa movies where he I can't remember where it is they go somewhere, and there's these guys hanging around outside. Oh no, that was it. Yeah. And I think someone's pretending to be his granddaughter or his carer or something.
Yeah.
Turns around and says to somebody, I think, is it a bus stop? Yeah, that was it. Not a venue, a bus stop. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. And the next thing, he's on top of the bus stop in a wheelchair. Everybody's wondering, how did he get there? Why did he leave him? And I love humor like that.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
getting people's reactions, and I like when they go to buy the bed, and he's there with his grandson, and the bed starts going. He's like, "What the hell did you do to this thing?"
Oh God, and the look on that guy's face and that star as well.
Yeah, the lady was like in shock, like mortified.
Yeah, that was absolute golden. But yeah, Johnny Knoxville is crazy. All of those cats are. But,
yeah, I haven't seen the fourth one yet. I'm sure they had to bring on some new guys because I can't imagine they're doing all the stunts themselves anymore.
That was pretty cool. That one was there's a point where they're at the show, you're scene where they're kind of having like a meeting and it's COVID and everything, and the next thing I think this whole roof over the tent or whatever they're in collapses, and it's slapstick, but it's funny, man. You know, stuff like that. Just getting back to your music, you know, before I let you go, because I know I've kept you here a long time. Are there any shows or anything else that you would like to shout out or tell us a bit about that we may have, you know, forgotten to cover?
Any shows? Well, Sekond Skyn's playing with Sponge in September at EJ's Tap House in Seaside Heights. So for any Jersey people out there,
definitely cool. Get yourselves along.
Yeah. But yeah, there's stuff in the works. There's always something going on brewing, but yeah, like you said, like with COVID, it was just hard. We were frequenting a lot of places, and then they closed, and now a lot of the shows, especially as an original metal band, you know, it's hard to get shows where you don't have to sell like 30, 50, 100 tickets. So that's always a challenge, but we get it done.
It is, yeah. It's getting the word out there, and definitely support the bands. People get out there, and you know, if you want to see them come back, you know, get yourselves along. Because if it goes as COVID's shown us, you know, it's a travesty, and then we'd certainly miss it for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, Zach, I've really enjoyed talking to you, man, about all the music and everything in between and outside of that. It's been super fun. And seriously, man, you are welcome on here anytime, both with your bands and same with your girlfriend. If you both want to come on and talk about what you'd be doing more with Riversend, you would be very welcome.
Yeah.
You know, I can help you in any way. Just give me a shout, and I'll do that for you.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and it was great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise, man. It was really, really fun, and it's good to meet you. So, folks, I shall see you on the next episode of Fed Up. Get at me if you would like to come on. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and smash the like buttons. Again, I want to thank Zach for coming on. It's great to have you, and shout out to Song River as well for helping set this up. Greatly appreciated. And peace, everybody. Have a good night wherever you are, and see you next time. One love.